When you finally find that perfect winter jacket-like, in your exact size, your favorite color, right as the first snow is falling, it kind of feels like retail magic, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
But it's really not magic at all. It is the result of one of the most fragile, chaotic, and just archaic logistical engines on Earth.
Oh, absolutely.
Like sprawling spreadsheets that are barely held together by email threads. And so today, we are taking you into a really high-stakes world that you probably never think about, but you interact with it constantly. We are diving deep into retail merchandise planning.
Yeah, and we're really looking at how artificial intelligence is moving way beyond, those flashy customer service chatbots that we see everywhere,
Right.
and instead how it's fundamentally rewiring the central nervous system of how businesses actually operate behind the scenes.
Exactly. And to understand the sheer scale of this shift, the source for our deep dive today is a Spotlight article published on June 10th, 2026 by Shish S on LinkedIn. It focuses on a New York-based startup called Toolio, which is part of the Microsoft for Startups Pegasus program.
Yeah, they are a fascinating company. They're basically proving that the future of enterprise software isn't just about giving people like a slightly prettier dashboard. It is about replacing human drudgery with deep, embedded intelligence.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even appreciate how a company like Toolio actually fixes this hidden logistical engine, we kind of have to look at why retail planning is such a uniquely massive headache in the first place. I mean, on paper, it sounds like basic arithmetic.
It does, right.
Yeah. You just, you count what you sold last year and then you buy a little more of it for this year.
Right. It sounds deceptively simple. You just decide what to buy and what quantities, what sizes, what colors for which stores, and, at what point in the season. But in reality, the daily user experience for a merchandise planner involves sitting in front of like a 50 megabyte Excel file that is just constantly on the verge of crashing.
Oh, the spinning wheel of death.
Exactly. And for decades, this entire industry has run on these siloed spreadsheets that are basically stitched together by what companies like to call institutional memory, which honestly is usually just Susan in planning,
Yeah.
remembering why the company ordered extra wool sweaters 3 years ago.
Right. And then when Susan retires, the entire logical framework of the company's inventory just like goes out the door with her.
Exactly. And the stakes here are incredibly high for you as a retailer because inventory is almost always the single largest line item on your balance sheet.
Wow, really? The largest.
Oh yeah, by far. So if a retailer buys too much or they buy the wrong sizes, they are forced into these massive markdowns just to physically clear the racks, which completely destroys their profit margin.
Right.
But then if they buy too little, they face stockouts. They are literally turning away paying customers and just leaving money on the table.
So it's like trying to pack a suitcase for a 10-day vacation with totally unpredictable weather. Except you're packing for millions of people across dozens of different climates, and you have to lock in your choices like half a year before the trip even starts.
That is a perfect analogy, yes.
So wait, I have to push back here. We've had sophisticated business intelligence tools for what, over a decade now? Why hasn't standard off-the-shelf data software fixed this spreadsheet apocalypse already?
Well, that brings us to the specific DNA of Toolio's target market, which is apparel. Apparel is arguably the absolute hardest version of the merchandise planning problem, and comes down to the mathematical complexity of what the industry calls the apparel matrix.
The apparel matrix sounds intense.
It is, because think about it. If you sell a ceramic coffee mug, it is just one item. But if you sell a basic t-shirt, it comes in, say, 5 sizes and 6 colors.
Oh, right.
So that single shirt design is suddenly 30 different items that you have to track and forecast.
And then you multiply that by hundreds of different styles across a brutally short seasonal window.
Exactly. Because nobody wants to buy a winter coat in May. So the economics of fashion markdowns are incredibly unforgiving. A generic piece of data software just looks at a t-shirt as a widget. It doesn't understand that complex ticking clock of fashion.
Ah, I see. So because generic software fails at that apparel matrix, the solution requires an entirely new, purpose-built architecture.
Precisely. Toolio didn't just build a general-purpose analytics tool and slap a "for retail" label on it. They completely unified financial planning, assortment planning, and inventory allocation into a single cohesive environment. So everyone, from the CFO all the way down to the regional buyer, is looking at the exact same numbers.
And they built the software to use native retail vocabulary, right? Like I saw in the source that open to buy, which is basically a retailer's remaining budget to buy more inventory without overspending, isn't just some custom text label someone typed into a dashboard. The system actually calculates it dynamically.
Yes. And the same goes for size curves.
Remind me what that is again.
It's the historical distribution of how many smalls you sell versus larges, for instance. And they also built in store clustering, which groups stores by climate or customer purchasing behavior, rather than just drawing arbitrary geographic lines on a map. These concepts are built right into the product's core code.
That's amazing. And when a software platform actually speaks the native language of the user, the results are staggering. Let me jump in with some of the real-world metrics from the source material just to show you how massive the financial stakes are here.
Go for it.
Okay, take AKA Brands. By moving their operations into Toolio, they realized they could carry 50 to 75% fewer items, but maintain the exact same sales volume.
That's huge.
Right. That level of efficiency leads to $5 million in expected cost savings, just from freeing up warehouse space and reducing unsold stock. Then you have Hunter Bell, who managed to cut their inventory and their planning effort literally in half. And Wheezy Towel saw an 8x return on their software investment. Overall, Toolio customers are seeing margin improvements of 2 to 3% and in-stock rate gains of 5 to 10%.
And, I mean, in an industry where a 1% shift in margin can mean the difference between a profitable quarter and bankruptcy, those are literally survival metrics.
Totally.
But, beyond those digital native startups, the true test of enterprise software is whether it can actually modernize a legacy business.
Right. A company that's been doing things the old way for decades.
Exactly. And Boston Proper is a fascinating case study here. They are a 30-year-old women's apparel brand. They target an over 40 demographic, and they operate entirely online now, generating roughly $90 million in annual revenue. But for most of their history, they ran on a traditional catalog-first model.
Oh, wow. Which means their entire business rhythm was tied to big physical seasonal catalog drops in the mail.
Precisely. They planned their clothing assortments one drop at a time, operating in those massive disconnected spreadsheets. So once a plan was set for the season, it was effectively set in stone. If a certain dress suddenly went viral, or if a supplier issue popped up overseas, they just couldn't pivot.
They were flying blind in the months between catalog drops because they had no real-time visibility.
Exactly. And moving a 30-year-old company off legacy spreadsheets is a massive behavioral hurdle. It requires getting teams who have worked a certain way for decades to entirely trust a new system.
Which is not easy.
Not at all. Yet, after adopting Toolio, Boston Proper achieved a 5% improvement in inventory turnover, and this is the crazy part, they shortened their buy cycles by 30%.
30%. That means they can read real-time customer demand signals and react instantly, getting products to market months faster than before.
Yes. It proves the software can earn its keep in the messy middle of a legacy brand's reinvention, not just in a nimble startup.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me. If a 30-year-old brand can suddenly speed up its buy cycle by 30%, how much of that is just, better file organization, and how much is the AI actually doing the heavy lifting?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
The answer is that Toolio isn't just organizing data, it's actively analyzing it using a highly specific two-layered AI approach.
Okay, walk me through that.
So, layer one is what they call embedded intelligence. This is the AI running quietly in the background, crunching the math. And the standout feature here is tournament forecasting.
Oh, I love this. I have an analogy for this. So tournament forecasting is basically like a weather channel that auditions 5 different meteorologists every morning.
Right, yeah.
Like one meteorologist is an absolute genius at predicting snowstorms, but is terrible at summer heat. Another one is highly accurate with humidity, but totally useless for predicting rain. So instead of forcing one meteorologist to forecast the entire year, the network automatically puts the right expert on screen for the right city every single day.
That is spot on. Historically, demand planning teams have wrestled with a single one-size-fits-all forecasting engine. But a simple statistical model that perfectly predicts how many basic white socks you need to restock, that is rarely the same mathematical model that can predict the volatile demand for, say, a highly seasonal, trendy neon jacket.
Right.
So Toolio runs multiple forecasting models against the historical data simultaneously, holds a tournament, and selects the most accurate model for that specific product.
That's brilliant. And it handles data cleansing automatically, too. Like if a specific wool sweater sold out completely last November because some massive influencer posted a video about it, the AI knows that was a singular event, right?
Yes,
So
exactly.
it adjusts for the anomaly so it doesn't blindly order triple the amount of sweaters for this coming November.
Right. And the critical factor here is that this embedded intelligence remains highly explainable. It is not a black box where the AI just spits out a purchasing number and demands the human trust it blindly. Planners can interrogate the math, they can see exactly why the system made a recommendation, and they can manually override it if they have, real-world context that the AI lacks.
Okay, so that covers the background math. But the second layer of Tulio's AI is where it feels like the future is actually arriving.
Ah,
This is the conversational and agentic layer.
yes.
It uses a family of what they call named agents, right?
Exactly. These agents are designed to literally take over the specific, grueling administrative chores that just eat up a merchandise planner's week. Take the opportunity agent, for example. Instead of a human manually combing through thousands of rows of localized sales data, the agent analyzes local trends to suggest highly specific allocation shifts. So it might notice a sudden spike in lightweight jackets in the Pacific Northwest due to an unseasonably warm spring, and it'll automatically draft a recommendation to shift inventory from warehouses in the Midwest directly to stores in Seattle.
Oh, wow. That would take a human days to figure out. And then there's the presentation agent, which solves one of the most tedious corporate realities.
Oh, slide decks.
Yes, in retail, planners spend days just copying and pasting data from spreadsheets into PowerPoint decks for seasonal line reviews. But the presentation agent takes the finalized assortment plans and automatically generates the visual lookbooks and narrative summaries for those meetings.
It reclaims entire days of lost productivity. And another crucial one is the scenario agent, which runs what-if simulations. Imagine a sudden supply chain shock, say, shipping costs from Asia double overnight. Total nightmare. In a legacy system, a planning team would spend a week manually rebuilding their entire fiscal plan from scratch just to understand the margin impact. But the scenario agent recalculates the impact across thousands of items in seconds, and it presents a ready-to-review simulation of how the business needs to adapt.
What's fascinating here is how these agents aren't replacing the planner. They are just taking over the copy-paste administrative hours so the human can actually focus on strategy.
Exactly. But having these named agents inside the software points to a much larger tectonic shift happening in enterprise tech right now. And this goes way beyond Toolio's own interface.
Right, because the source material points out a major conceptual shift.
Yes. The defining shift for the next era of business software revolves around an acronym called MCP, or Model Context Protocol. MCP is rapidly becoming table stakes for B2B software. It's basically the standard connective tissue between AI agents and complex business data.
So to put it simply, software is no longer just a destination that you log into.
Right. Through MCP, a platform like Toolio takes all its deep vertical retail expertise and turns it into a capability or a skill.
A skill. Wait, explain that a bit more.
So if you are a massive enterprise, you might be using Microsoft Copilot Studio or an enterprise version of Claude across your entire company. You do not want to spend millions of dollars trying to teach a generic language model the complex logic of retail merchandising from scratch.
Obviously not.
So Toolio's MCP server exposes their entire planning logic, the item plans, the geographic allocations, the financial scenarios, to any compatible AI platform through one single connection. It becomes a skill your broader AI can just call upon.
Okay, hold on. Let me play the skeptic here for a second. Because if I am a major retailer, the idea of letting an AI loose inside my live financial data and my core inventory is terrifying.
Oh, I'm sure.
That sounds like a recipe for a catastrophic data leak, or at least a massive hallucination where the AI just, invents a plausible sounding sales projection.
And enterprise IT leaders share that exact concern, which is why the grounding and governance solution in Toolio's MCP implementation is so vital. It does not create new backdoors or separate login credentials.
Okay.
It authenticates entirely through the customer's existing single sign-on providers like Okta or Microsoft Entra ID.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So every single query executes under a real user's identity, relying on the exact role-based user permissions that already govern the company. So if a junior planner does not have the clearance to view executive revenue targets in the main system, the AI physically cannot pull that data for them.
And the data remains encrypted in transit, and crucially, none of the retailer's proprietary sales data is scraped or used to train third-party foundational models.
Exactly.
But what about the hallucinations? How do you ensure the AI isn't just doing rogue math?
Well, the brilliance here is that it forces the AI to anchor its answers to a deterministic database. Every single answer the AI produces traces directly back to an underlying Toolio view. It computes against the real live sell-through data, the real open-to-buy budget, and the real fiscal calendar.
So it creates one unified version of the truth, which replaces that messy old reality where 5 different executives walk into a meeting with 5 slightly different exported spreadsheets.
Yes. Now, a planner can just ask their company's internal Copilot, hey, run an exception search across our winter assortment to see what is underperforming, and they get a factual, mathematically sound answer in seconds. No IT support tickets, no manual data handoffs.
That is just a massive evolution. So, trying to synthesize everything we've covered today for you listening, the takeaway isn't just about retail, it is really a blueprint for the future of work.
Absolute.
Toolio is proving that the most successful B2B startups of this next cycle will combine incredibly deep, purpose-built industry expertise with open protocols like MCP. They're turning their software into a brain that plugs into a company's broader AI ecosystem.
And honestly, whether you are prepping for a tech strategy meeting this afternoon or you are simply trying to understand the future of commerce, this shift from software as a destination to software as an agentic skill is the dominant pattern to watch.
Totally. It is an entirely new way of operating, but it does leave one final kind of provocative thought for you to ponder.
Oh,
Yeah. If enterprise software is becoming a set of invisible skills that AI agents execute flawlessly in the background, what happens to the human art of merchandising?
that's a great question.
Because retail has always relied on human intuition, right? The,
Yeah,
the gut
yeah.
feeling of a visionary who understands culture and just knows what people will want to wear next year. But if the AI is perfectly calculating the trends and the math, will the future retail planner be less of a visionary tastemaker and more of a conductor, just orchestrating a symphony of algorithms? Something to think about the next time you walk into a store and find that absolutely perfect jacket waiting for you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.